Hello, everybody. This is Geron Scates for 91.1 FM KGWB, the Great White Buffalo, and the voice of Western Texas College. And for all of you that are listening and or watching as well, we appreciate you joining us. And we have some interesting information to share with you on Monday, March the 1st. If you didn't know, it is Women in STEM Day. And you've probably heard a lot about STEM in various newspaper articles and magazine articles and social media articles. And STEM talks about science, technology, engineering, and math. And women in STEM have really grown and exploded exponentially in all of these different career fields. And yet I think that sometimes when we think about kids in the secondary school in the education system, they may be interested in these things and yet think, well, that's really not a field I can get into. And we have two shining examples with us right now to show that if you're interested in STEM, and especially if you're a young lady, don't feel like that this is not a field for you. And we're going to find out a little bit more about that in just a moment. With us is Dana Fahntrapp, first of all, our instructor of petroleum technology here, and then also Assistant Professor Keely Green, one of our math instructors. And so obviously, again, a very STEM appropriate field. So science, technology, engineering, and math. Remember, that's STEM. So let's go ahead and we're going to start the question and answer session now. Let's go, first of all, with Dana. Dana, your position, how does it fit into the STEM field?
First off, thank you for having me on today. For the petroleum technology, a lot of it is a lot of the hands-on work. So it's students are going to be out working in the field, working either on pumps or on pump jacks. Try not to get them so much in the exploration side as more on the production side. Even corrosion, some of the science behind the whole industry, as well as like the computer side, the programmable logic controllers anymore. That's become a huge kind of incentive here lately. It's how to keep things safer. You can have sensors on almost anything anymore, so that allows the operators just a better idea of what's actually happening in the field. And so it's, like I said, it's very much part of the technology aspect of it. Like I said, be doing a lot of the hands-on working out in the field. So.
All right, thank you. And Keely, of course, teaching math. Math happens so much around us and is part of our world that those of us that may think we don't use math, we use it all the time, every day. But so how do you feel like your position fits into this STEM concept?
Well, very directly, just that it is the math component of the acronym there. You know, you've got the different fields, and being a math instructor, obviously I take on that component, but they're all related too. There's always like cross curriculum as well, which is fantastic. It's good for students to see how the different subjects do intermingle in life, and it's a joy for me, a satisfaction for me when I get to teach and show students where math is involved in their day-to-day life. For some of them, that light bulb comes on of, I do math all day, every day, and I'm not aware of it, and just helping them come to that realization and excel, move forward, excelling in that. I recently told my kids this semester that my hope when I'm done with them is that they hate math a little less. Not that they have to love math and be a nerd like I claim to be and proud to be, but just that I try to help them with progress, progress in it.
That makes sense. One of my favorite stories of my own when I was much younger and trying to figure out the whole math thing in school, once I figured out that figuring out a batting average for a baseball player and percentages were all tied together, that was my light bulb moment. And so anyway, I think that's pretty cool.
Right.
Now, we think about, again, people that are, and again, this is a celebration of women in STEM Day and in STEM fields. So as a child, Dana, did you possess kind of a trait or an interest that maybe indicated to you that, hey, you know, I want to be in one of these maybe non-traditional fields?
Well, compared to kids these days, absolutely, because I was outside. Like I said, if the sun was shining, I was on Deep Creek, walking up and down the creek, either, like I said, collecting either rocks, turtles, and frogs, anything that I could kind of come across. That really grew later on, and when I got into my college, I got into geology, and so the rocks, like I said, I continued and I was like, oh, there's actually different types of rocks, and then that whole fascination, I think that really helped drive me to go towards getting my bachelor's in geology. But like I said, just being, as a kid, just seeing like being outside. We played, we had an Atari, I remember that, and we played that, but as far as if it's anything, it's just being outside. And
well, hey, you got me beat. We had Pong. Okay, that was new at the time. But and Keely, how about you? Growing up, something that a trait that you think back on now, maybe didn't realize it at the time, indicated you had an interest toward this field.
I mean, I can remember very early on at a young age, excelling and even enjoying math. In elementary school, I can pinpoint a year, an age, like a grade level, a teacher, and everything where it was like it just clicked for me.
Right.
But so I think that's where kind of my interest and like passion was ignited or started. Did I stay that course from then till now? No. I definitely pursued other things and entertained other things, but the realization came back at one point, where I was gifted was in math. So I think exploring and learning from as many areas as you possibly can, and then realizing like where your gifts lie, where your strengths lie, that's kind of what headed me in this direction.
Yeah. And this question is for either one of you. But are there traits that maybe if say you're around a classroom of kids that if they exhibit this particular trait, it sort of like indicates, hey, I think this is something that they can, an interest of theirs or a trait they have that they can develop into an interest. Either one of you have something?
Well, like I said before, becoming aware of your gifts and your strengths. But I think also, if we're going to talk about traits, that it's also very important to talk about work ethic and just anybody's willingness to put in the work to accomplish what it is that you desire. Whether you feel strong or excel in that area or not, there's always room for improvement. There's always room for growth. We never reach that level of perfection. And so just the students having that work ethic trait that they're like, I want to do this, and the willingness to learn.
I think a lot of that just goes, are they willing to ask questions to get those answers? Mm-hmm. Like I said, if they can start at the younger they are willing to be like, well, how does that work? Why does that work?
So curiosity.
It gets a curiosity. And like I said, that to me, I think that's an important trait.
And of course, STEM is a very a prominent acronym now, mm-hmm. but for either one of you, again, when say you're high school or earlier, junior high days or middle school, whatever you want to call it, or elementary days, primary days. I mean, was this an acronym or even an area that you knew even existed?
No. Not for me at all. Not until I was in my teaching career did I know anything of the acronym.
Yeah. And Keely talked about how she had different people sort of like inspire her, okay, and kind of point away and help her along the way. Dana, did you have anybody that particularly kind of spoke to you, so to speak, or stood out or inspired you to continue your...
For me, it would have been later when I did decide to go to college. Like I said, it was right after high school, I decided to work at a music store selling guitars for about 5 years and enjoyed that. But then when I decided to go to college, like I said, it was even my first English instructor, which I did not like English. I was a math science person, like I said, but he allowed me to write stories about what interests me, civilization on Mars. Like, really? Okay, I can do that. And then even, like I said, my first geology instructor here, Troy Lilly, he was a big inspiration. Like I said, going on field trips with him, I was like, I could do this all the time. So, yeah, like I said, to me, it was like the ones when I was in my college, but at that point, I was wanting to learn. I was ready, and so I was taking in as much as I could. So,
well, that's pretty cool. And of course, I think Mr. Lilly, he still does some adjunct teaching for us. Even though he's retired, he says he's retired. I don't think he'll ever retire, but that's pretty cool. And speaking of cool, how about we talk about job responsibilities. Obviously, you're in your careers and you're doing things. So, Keely, let's go ahead and start with you on this one. Something that you might classify as kind of a cool job responsibility, part of your profession, that most of us wouldn't figure out. That is even something that you deal with or do or get to do.
Well, I think I maybe hinted towards this earlier when I talked about it being very satisfying to see growth in my students, to see them come to an understanding, to have that light bulb moment. But really just in thinking about really cool aspects, I guess, more than necessarily job responsibilities related to my profession, is getting that opportunity to build relationships with my students. Being here at WTC, being a 2-year college, the sad part of that is just they might only be here for just the 2 years. But I don't know if that falls under the category of responsibilities, but it's something that I value, is getting to build a relationship, meeting my students where they're at when they show up, and being able to see them grow through instruction,
right,
through assessment, and through having a genuine care for them, not just in math, but in life.
Right.
So
having a chance to share part of that journey with them at this step.
Yes, and it's such a transitional time in their life too. So I guess as far as like a responsibility, just that impact that I have the opportunity to have and make and experience.
Danny, you have something you want to add to that?
I can kind of mirror the same, and it's something the more you teach, the more that builds on you. But like I said, for students, my program, 2 years, they're going right out and starting to work, and so they're starting their career paths, and they're coming back and showing me these giant compressors they're working on, and different areas that they've been. And now that they're married, and like I said, they got a child coming, and it is very neat and rewarding just to build that connection. And like I said, they're all coming back just to tell you stories and say thank you. It is a very neat experience.
That has to be really cool too. The fact that you see them using things that y'all like went over from an educational environment, but now they're actually using it, and to make a living.
They bring me parts like, we figured you could use this in your class. I'm like, yeah, thanks, so absolutely.
That's pretty neat. Talking about messages that young girls can get from this, and again, this is for both of you, either one, but if you were going to provide a message of inspiration to young girls and to tell them, hey, it's okay to go ahead and go after this, what do you think you would tell them?
So for me, I'm a nerd, okay? I absolutely geek out over math. And so I came up with a couple of math bent phrases, some things like basically if the odds are stacked against you, and there you're looking at, probability and odds, which is math concept. But if the odds are stacked against you, my encouragement would be to defy the odds and to not let a statistic define you, because everybody is different, and a statistic reflects a sample set. It doesn't reflect you as an individual, so definitely don't let it define you. And then my favorite one that I have written down is kind of along the same lines, but just an encouragement to be the outlier. Don't be
Right.
that set, don't be that statistic that falls within the range of the data. Be that one that says, I want this, I don't want this, and then go after it.
Yeah,
and don't
be
get
that-
discouraged.
Be that data point, that light on the edge of the graph, on the outside of it.
Yep.
And be that one. And Dana?
Mine again is just always just don't be afraid to ask questions. Be curious. Like I said, just go out and, like I said, get dirty. If
Yeah.
that's the key one on mine.
Go ahead and just get dirty. Roll up your sleeves and get dirty. What do you think we can do? And I guess when we say we, the question is really more about, from an educational environment, as institutions, as learning institutions, and of course we're all involved in higher education. So what do we need to do to encourage younger girls to be more interested? Let them know that, hey, we can do this. Any strategies that you have in mind, or is it just a matter of reaching out?
I think
What do you
just
think?
letting them know there's opportunities, like I said, for such, whether, like I said, I know usually a couple times a semester I tried to do something with the astronomy lab and set it up for the public, so, you don't think of astronomy as being a very, high women field, but there's many that love to get, chance just to look at the moon or the, planets. So just, learning about opportunities that are available in the community. I think that's important.
Yeah, and Keely, I was going to say too, to go along with that question, and to kind of like double up a little bit, on the other one we were going to talk about is what, and it may be something you think about, or may not be anything that you normally think about, but being a woman in STEM, what does that mean to you?
I think it is quite empowering, and again, just leaning on inspiration and encouraging one another, just being the type of empowered woman that doesn't let it stop there. The buck doesn't stop here, that I'm going to choose, and I think this is part of why I became a teacher, is with understanding math well and feeling gifted in that area, that I didn't want to just keep that to myself. Like, I wanted to share it, and just being very aware that not understanding something is very difficult and frustrating, and wanting to, meet people right there where they're at and to help them walk through that. So just empowering to be a woman in STEM, and definitely a point of, I guess, pride, definitely
Right.
don't want to get puffed up, but something that you work hard for, it doesn't come easy, and, you should take pride in good hard work.
All right. And Dana, as far as being a woman in STEM, what does that mean to you?
Like I said, I same thing. I enjoy it. I don't think so much about it until I do things with the community, and I just get a chance to talk to young girls, and like I said, see them smile, and whether it's astronomy or see I'm a volunteer firefighter, they're like, you do that? I'm like, yeah, you can, so it's just, again, just opening their eyes to, opportunities that, hey, you can do whatever you want. So.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool here in some of our career technical education programs. And for those listening, so what does that mean? Well, that's our academic term for vocational, and we get women in the courses that you all are in, and all, welding, and had an electrical lineman graduate. One of our, I think the first young lady that graduated from that program here just in the last, whatever it was, last couple of years, I think. And I thought that was really exciting, and that's a perfect example of what you all are trying to do, is let them know, hey, if this is something you're interested in, you can do this. Do you have, Keely, is there a challenge that generally you faced or have faced or face as a woman in the STEM fields?
I don't know that I've given that a ton of thought, to be honest. Again, just like you said before, encouraging them that if that's something that they want to do, that they can, that we can do whatever we set our mind to, and that we're willing to work hard for. Sometimes it's not going to come easy, and you got to persevere in it. So I guess that right there would probably be the challenge, is just perseverance, not getting discouraged at any point, not looking at a field and seeing that in the past it's been primarily employed, by men. And so, looking at that and being like, well, that's a statistic and that doesn't define me, it doesn't define that field.
Right.
And I can break that barrier, and so I guess seeing it as kind of a challenge, an obstacle, and being that overcomer.
Yeah,
So-
great. And
I agree the same. Like I said, just don't be afraid to make mistakes and keep challenging yourself to go forward. Yeah, absolutely.
excellent. Well, we certainly hope that that if you're listening or watching, that if you have an opportunity to use both Dana and Keely as examples to the young girls that you may interact with and that you communicate with, that here's two perfect examples of women that have reached out, followed their paths and their hearts for their success, and that has been in STEM fields, and they didn't worry about, well, normally, a woman isn't found in this field or maybe that field, and now all those barriers are breaking down, and again, sometimes I've even had the opportunity to point out to some of my the female students that, hey, like in sportscasting, that has exploded, and things that you never thought about, women being on air in certain roles on television, that they are there now and they're successful and they're good. So, and that's all. I just wanted to sneak that in. I guess part of the I don't know. I guess that maybe fits under the technology part, but I think it's great, and we appreciate your time and your effort, and for all the work that you do here at Western Texas College and all the lives that you impact. So. Again, Dana Fahntrapp, Keely Green, members of our full-time faculty here at Western Texas College and representing women in STEM. We want to remind everybody that per CDC guidelines, these interviews were conducted under those. So we've cleaned and sanitized and scrubbed, and we're 6 feet apart, and so that's all works. So we just want to put that in there and let everybody know that we did follow those guidelines. So on behalf of Dana and Keely, I'm Geron Scates, and thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and have a great day.